Hey everybody, today we're talking about Batman Murderer. Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. As always, I'm your host, Brent and today we're doing part 1 of 2. This is the Batman Murderer and Fugitive review. I have the most recent trade paperback collections that were printed, back when DC still had the page turn logo. They're on this nice glossy paper, which they don't do anymore, but they are available. Also, there is a pretty recent Batman Murderer Fugitive omnibus out there, so if you want to know about the storyline and my thoughts on it, if you're thinking about buying that omnibus, you can obviously watch these videos also. We're going to have some spoilers, so don't fret. I don't go into too much detail normally, but again, these are all off-the-cuff thoughts off the top of my head, and that's how we roll here. So if you don't want any information, don't watch, but if you do want a little bit, go ahead and watch. I read this before. I had the older trade paperbacks from way back when it was first released. This is 2001, 2002 special here. Yeah, March 2002 was when the 10-cent adventure was published. And that's this little thing that kicks off this event. You've seen it. It's the cover here, right? I had the old trade paperbacks, and there were 4 of them. There was a Bruce Wayne Murderer trade paperback, which started with the 10-cent adventure and went all the way through Batman 600. And then there were 3 Fugitive trade paperbacks, and they were all like this kind of newspaper matte paper. And I was reading this and reading the Fugitive volume, and I was like, there's stuff in here that was missing, that I had not read before. So one nice thing about the Murderer trade paperback is they do include full issues. So the tie-in with Robin, the tie-in with Birds of Prey, the tie-ins with Nightwing, like this page here with Ted Kord. This page I had never read before, this sequence. It's a Birds of Prey page. It has to do with the ongoing Birds of Prey storyline. At that time, it was written by Chuck Dixon, and it has nothing to do with Bruce Wayne Murderer, right? With the crossover storyline you're reading. But it is included in here. The Robin stuff does have stuff with his dad. He's away at school, and people are getting hurt. You think Robin's hurt. All that stuff. Nothing to do with the ongoing crossover, but has to do with the ongoing storyline of the Robin comic book. So those are all things I had not read before. So I was like, oh, that's nice that they're included in here. It doesn't really fill out a whole bunch of stuff that, I needed to know for the storyline. Like, I'd read pretty much everything until you get to the Fugitive one. We'll talk about that one later. But overall, I think this one does a nice job of setting things up. There's a lot more stuff in here with Nightwing also, with Ozymandias and, the backwards head guy whose name I can't remember. I remember him in Compendium 1 that I read. He did get his head turned around, so it's nice to see that he's still around late in the Nightwing run. Who's doing Nightwing at this time? Trevor McCarthy and Chuck Dixon. Okay, that's 65. So yeah, whole bunch of stuff collected in here. Nightwing, Robin, Batman, Detective Comics, and Batman Gotham Knights and Birds of Prey are all part of this crossover. So this takes place after No Man's Land and after Brubaker and Greg Rucka's run on Batman and Detective have started. There's the Officer Down crossover that takes place shortly before this. There's a small reference in here of Jim Gordon getting shot and retiring. That's from that storyline, which has not been recollected in a new trade paperback since the original one, which I still have on my Batman shelf. I've read it here on the channel for you to watch a video if you want. But this has, this is the end of the Rucka and Brubaker era on Batman before they go to Gotham Central. So, my trade paperbacks over my shoulder to the right, I don't know if they're in the shot, but I have both of the Rucka trades on Detective Comics, and both of those lead into this. Brubaker, however, his collections, the older ones of Batman by Ed Brubaker, the first one is all stuff that's not collected in here. It's separate storylines. The second one has all the issues in here, as well as one more issue, and then that's it. He's done. So do you need the Brubaker storyline? No. All his stuff really is collected in the Murder Fugitive thing, and you're just jumping around the storyline, really not getting a clue as to what's going on if you read that one by itself. So that's why I don't have that one. But anyway, I saw a video on YouTube from Salazar Knight, who's a great Batman YouTuber, if you go check him out. But he did call this one of the worst stories, in his opinion, of the Batman era. I disagree. I really like this storyline. I think it's fun. I think it's cool to imagine Bruce Wayne being set up, even though by the time we get to the end of the setup in Fugitive, and find out who's behind everything, it is a little hokey, but all the stuff here, at least in this first part, in the Murderer trade paperback, is really fun, really interesting, in terms of like what's going on. It's nonstop roller coaster, whodunit mystery, pretty much until Batman 600 here, where Scott McDaniel is taking over the art on the Batman book. And then you have a bunch of issues of Detective Comics and Gotham Knights and Birds of Prey, where it's Batman basically, at that point in time, he'd given up on the Bruce Wayne persona in Batman 600. And you have some Batman adventures, and they're slowly like teasing the Fugitive part of the book. And it's like, we've had enough of the murder stuff. Let's get back to some more Batman doing Batman things, as opposed to the murderer storyline. So it's like an interlude, I guess, between this and the Fugitive stuff, which is all about finding out and solving exactly who framed Bruce Wayne for being a murderer. All right, so what happens? Well, this is the 10-cent adventure kicks off this book, and that's by Greg Rucka and Kelly Puckett. That's this one here. And that is the first time I got introduced to Sasha Bordeaux, who does later become a more important character in Checkmate and the OMAC project. You can see her on Peacemaker Season 2 right now. But she started out as a bodyguard for Bruce Wayne, who was hired by Wayne Enterprises. All that stuff happens in Greg Rucka's detective run. And in the second volume of that, she does find out that he's Batman. He decides to train her as a sidekick, even though she doesn't have a name, but she does wear this all-purple getup, similar to Huntress, I guess, but she's blonde. But anyway, they come back from a night of adventuring to find Bruce Wayne's girlfriend, Vesper Fairchild, murdered in the halls of Wayne Manor. And as Bruce finds her, the police break in just in time to see him holding her dead body covered in her blood. Meanwhile, Sasha's in the background going, oh my gosh, what is happening? Just in shock. So the first couple of issues are explaining, all the Bat family finding out what happened. Bruce Wayne, murderer? What? What's going on? And them investigating. Meanwhile, Bruce is all clammed up. He's not saying anything. He's shutting everybody out. And this is really the deconstruction of the Bat family, I would say. Like, he's just not relying on anybody. And this storyline overall is a long way of him realizing that he needs to rely on his Bat family, as it were, to make him, right? He cannot be an island on his own at this point. He's too big a target, and he's failing the people that he loves. And this storyline just breaks down that idea to, like, starts from the beginning of him having a Bat family. He abandons it. You find out how that affects Batman, and then slowly builds him back up in Fugitive. So it does have a nice resolution. I do like the murder Fugitive storyline, so I disagree with Salazar Knight to bring it back to that YouTube video a whole lot. There's some great art in here from Kelly Puckett, from Scott McDaniel, from Trevor McCarthy, from Pete Woods, Rick Leonardi, Leonardo Manco, Roger Robinson does a great job on the Gotham Knights stuff. Some really fantastic art. Like, there's no issue in here that I'm looking at going like, oh, this art is crap, or oh, this art is bad. Everything slaps, as it were. Really, really great stuff. I've never really enjoyed Rick Leonardi, but I really enjoyed him on the Birds of Prey stuff here. So saying that, is awesome. And Scott McDaniel's on another level here in Batman 600, just drawing the crap out of it. There's a really awesome fight with Batman and Nightwing, and later in this issue, which, as I was reading it, I remember like opening up my old trade paperback and like pinning it down and drawing like this particular pose of Nightwing. I have another drawing. I just copied it, basically. Me trying to teach myself how to draw by copying figures in comic books. That's how I got into it, right? Because I wanted to draw, and comic books were something to copy and learn figure work and proportions and things like that. So yeah, I had a lot of flashbacks of my middle school years reading that old trade paperback as I was reading this. So it has a lot of nostalgia for me. So maybe that's why I really enjoyed it, because I have read this multiple times. when I was a kid in my old trade paperbacks. But this is the first time I read it in this, we'll call it like the new restored version, right? So I thought that was great. So I'm not sure, since I don't have the omnibus, so don't ask me in the comments, although I'm sure somebody will, right? If this has all of the same mapping as the omnibus. I have no idea. I'm assuming so. I'm assuming maybe in the omnibus they included every single part of every single issue the way that they did in the Murderer. I'm not sure about the Fugitive one. We'll talk about that in the next video for this series, right? So yeah, go look at an overview of that. I know Omar from Near Mint Condition has one up on his channel for that omnibus in particular. But I think the storyline is really cool. So it's got some great art in here. I think if you're a Batman fan, you know, it does get better than this, but this is one that's like, you know, of the Bat events of that era, you know, Cataclysm, No Man's Land, this is one you can read because it's not 4, 5 volumes long. Like the No Man's trades are what, 5 volumes plus Cataclysm and 2 Road to No Man's Land trades. You're talking about like 8 trade paperbacks there to read that event. This one is a solid 2 trade paperbacks, right? And this one's pretty thick, as it were. So I think it's a cool beginner story to Batman. You gotta know about Batman. You learn about all the supporting cast. If you watch the animated series or any animated series, you can kind of figure it out as you go. So I did like it. I liked it again. I liked it then. I liked it now. I still like it. That's my thoughts on Bruce Wayne Murderer. So let me know down below what you guys thought of this storyline, and we'll see you guys next time in the Funny Pages.